Hey there and Merry Christmas! Welcome back to my YouTube channel and blog. Today is the Brutus Monroe blog hop and it is a Christmas theme. So I'm going to be using this adorable gnome place-like home stamp along with the sketched bow stamp as well, just for the sentiments in that one, because I plan to make some quick and easy, at least I thought they were fairly quick and easy, gift tags. I've got some sidewalk cardstock, and I cut that down to about 2.5 inches by 5.5 inches, I think it's what it was. And so they're kind of bigger tags, but you could do whatever you want. That's the beauty of making your own tags. You don't have to have a tag die, which those are great, but you cut them however you want. I am taking out 3 of the snowflakes that were in the stamp set. There are so many beautiful snowflakes in this stamp set, but I took 3 and I just stuck them on my stamp block and stamped them out using the embossing ink, but I'm covering my panel with the magic powder bag first so I don't get embossing powder where I don't want it. And then I'm going to cover that with the Alabaster embossing powder. It doesn't look like much right now because this is a very light cardstock, but the nice thing about using a cardstock that's just like a little bit darker than a white is that when I finally do heat emboss it, it is going to look so pretty. It's really going to pop on that almost like a very light gray. Well, that's why it's called sidewalk, I guess. But I'm going to go ahead and start heat setting that, and you'll be able to tell because it'll totally change color on that gray cardstock. So you can see it melting and it'll be all smooth and melted. And then when that happens, you'll be good to move on to your next ones. But isn't that neat? It's nice and subtle. It's not like in your face, but I really love how those turned out. Now I'm going to line up my white paper, which is just some Neenah Classic Crest, and I'm going to ink up my gnomes along with my sentiment, which I put right at the bottom, and I'm inking that up with my Raven Detail ink because I plan to do some alcohol marker coloring. And I strategically placed the Merry Gnomemas at the bottom like that because I plan to cut it out in a certain way. I had cut that paper down to the same exact size as I did the sidewalk paper so that I could, cut out a little snowdrift. And so this is where I grab out A Gift for You from the Sketched Bow stamp set. And I'm going to do the same thing with all those presents and that sentiment. And then I will ink them up one more time just to make sure that I have a good clean, crisp image. And then we'll get ready to move on to our coloring. I did some fairly basic coloring. I'm just using my EverBlend, my ARTEZA EverBlend markers, and this is the set of 60, so there is a bigger set, the set of 120, but I thought I would just challenge myself because I do have the skin tones and I also have the grays that I just decided I would just challenge myself just to use the 60 and see if I could come up with a good blend. And you can. The 60 works great. If you have the money and you want to just spend it, I would say, get the 120. I wish I had the 120, but this set is a good little set to have if you don't need to do a bunch of color blends. Like if you're okay with a 2-color blend, then this is definitely the set for you. And so I'm just going to go and color these to be like a traditional Christmas color, little Christmas gnomes. So I've got the 411 and the 415 for my reds. And I'm going to do all the reds at one time for both of those gnomes and the presents. And then I'm going to move on to my greens after I'm done with the reds. So today is Christmas, obviously, and you may be watching this on Christmas. You may not be because you're maybe spending time with friends or family. I am spending time with my family, and I can guarantee I'm loving every second of it. So my son, who is in the Army, is home for the next couple of weeks, and I could not be happier. I have just been beside myself with excitement that he was going to be here. So I have worked on most of these cards that I've made over the last couple weeks. I've worked ahead on these just so that I wouldn't have to be, doing too much work while he was here, because he lives, well, I guess it's about an 11 to 13 hour drive away, which isn't terrible, but we are a 1-car family right now. And so, we have to make that car last. So we can't really, hop in the car too much and head on over there to see him. But we're just so happy that he is with us right now. And we will have all kinds of family coming in and out, which we're so excited about. We're going to have a full house. At one point, I think we're even going to have 9 people in our home, and my heart is so happy at the thought of that. So yes, I am just wishing you all a very wonderful holiday season, Merry Christmas, all that wonderful stuff. Because if I know myself, yes, it's Christmas morning, but and my kids are, obviously 18 and 19 years old, so they're probably not up super early to open presents. I'm probably the one up super early, just looking at the Christmas lights and enjoying the day already and just anticipating what the rest of the day will be. My husband actually plans to make a prime rib. This will be his 3rd year doing that, and I think he perfected it last year, but I'm certain he'll probably have it somehow even better this year as well. And yeah, so I'm excited to eat and to spend time and just be. And so I'm hoping that you all are getting a chance to do that as well. All right, back to my coloring. My greens are the 546 is my lighter tone, and then the 555 is my darker tone. You'll notice on my reds that the 2 reds weren't too far on the spectrum from each other, so it isn't like a dramatic difference. But with these greens, they're definitely a little bit farther away from each other. And I don't mind that because it's interesting with these markers. They seem at first like they're not going to blend out very well, but it seems like when they start to dry, they really soften out on those edges if you go back over it. So you can see that this green is quite a bit different, quite a bit darker, but I don't mind. So I'm just going to kind of soften those edges just a little bit, and it'll end up really making that green look like they just absolutely go together, which I love. And so I'll just add little touches here and there to each one. And then I'll move on to a gray tone. I'm going to use this 551 for their beards. And I'm also going to go ahead and use that for the little white fluff on their hats and on their gloves. And on the one little guy, I'm going to use it on the fluff on his shoes and his little, on his shoes. And so then I'll blend that out with the colorless blender. And don't be fooled, a colorless blender isn't necessarily a blender. It usually just pushes the color around. I typically use mine for mistakes. If you go outside the lines, you can just kind of hold it there and it'll press the color back in. But in this case, if you just run it over the top, it will definitely soften out that color just a little bit. So that is something to keep in mind. It isn't something that you need to run over all of your colors. You can just use it where you feel like you need it. And so that gray seems very stark and dark in those areas, but as it dries with the colorless blender, it definitely just seems to even itself out, which is really cool. And so now I'm going to move on to his boots. Now you notice I put down 1 wash of color and then I set it off to the side, and basically what I was doing is I was letting it dry first before I added the second layer. Now I am cutting out the Merry Gnomus, and you'll notice I'm clearly not doing it straight because I'm trying to make those look like little snowbanks. And then I will fussy cut out both of those gnomes and all of the presents, but I'm not going to show you all of that because that would be fairly boring. I'm going to make this a flat tag. There's no reason to add a bunch of foam tape unless you really, really wanted to, but I'm just going to put some liquid glue on the back of my little snowbank, and I'll tack that down, and I'll do the same, kind of working in assembly line here. And then I'll decide where I want my little gnomes. And then I'll use that same liquid glue for the gnomes when the time comes. But I decided with this tag to make it a sideways tag just simply because those presents wouldn't have stacked up high enough, and I thought it would be kind of cute to just have him setting out. So I'll tack him down, and then I'll do the other little guy. And then I will tack down the presents. And these are really starting to come together. And I did color 4 presents, but I decided, the rule of odds, I decided to just use the 3 presents instead of using the 4th present because it's a little bit more appealing to your eyes. And then I'll take that same gray that I used earlier and just put a little bit underneath each of the gnomes and the presents so that they don't look like they're floating. And now I'm going to grab my hole punch, and I'll just punch a hole in each one of these. As I said, you can make a tag out of any size you wanted. You don't have to have a special tag die, although those are cool too. And I'm going to use these brand new to Brutus Monroe, Prism Sequins. They are gorgeous. There's Galaxy Black, purple, orange. I'm going to use the green today. There's raspberry, and then there's yellow gold. All just absolutely stunning. So different than any other sequins that I have in my stash. I love that these just kind of sparkle and shine and almost change color in the light. It's just, oh, they're so pretty. So I'm going to put these into these little containers. I think these are nothing new. I will have these linked down below if I can find them. But I'm just going to put these in these little containers, and then I will start tacking down my sequins where I would like them. So I'm using my crystal katana along with my liquid glue to tack these down, and you'll notice a couple of those sequins stick off the side. That's fine. Once these are all dry, I'm just going to cut off the edge of those sequins. I even stick some of the sequins behind the little gnomes, so that just gives a little bit of, you know, just a little interest for the eyes. I've got some red and white baker's twine that I've cut down, and I'm just going to stick that through the hole and loop it, and then I'll tie a knot, and I'll have my tags ready to go. I'm going to do that for all 3 of those. But there you go. I've been so happy with how these turned out. I wish that I had actually, you know, made a few more. And like I said before, a few times, you don't necessarily have to have a tag die. These could work out just great. And this is a part of a blog hop. I didn't mention that earlier. This is the Brutus Monroe blog hop for all the inspiration team. So I'll have my blog listed down below, so you can head on over there and check that out, and then get links to the other blogs so that you don't miss anything. And if you like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already done so. I have plenty of awesome, cool new things all planned for the new year. And as always, thanks so much for stopping by. Merry Christmas, everybody.